Is God a circle, and what exactly are the polarities? As always, welcome back to the temple. If you're new here, welcome. I'm sure you're going to get some interesting tidbits from this discussion here. Today we have a really interesting topic to get into, and it's especially relative to the current time leading up to summer solstice. You'll see quite exactly why shortly. So to kick this off, I have a quote. It states, "God is a circle whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere." An enormous quote delivered by Hermes Trismegistus himself in Liber 24 Philosophorum. Well, this is because the center is determined by a fixed point, which can literally be anywhere it desires, while its circumference must perfectly encircle it no matter the circumstance. You see what I did there? The circumstance is but the receptive situation upon which the circle itself endures, depending on what the directed point of its center willed to be, if you will. As a matter of fact, the words circumference and circumstance are much the same because they belong to the same principles. The fixed point, for instance, is the will of conscious thought and therefore the will of God, or the thought of God, while the circumstantial circumference around it is its resultant form or a body. But this circular body existed first in the infinite realm, only becoming manifested henceforth into the realm of the finite by the active realization of the fixed point. Moreover, the fixed point and the circle itself are but one of the same design. The circle can easily be the center of all things, both infinite and incorporeal, while its own fixed point is in fact another center, the very reflection of it on a different level. So the circle itself is infinite and basically non-existent because the center will always be right at the middle of it. And whenever the center or the fixed point is realized, it creates a brand new circle and then a new center of its own. But the circle itself will always be around it. So with God being infinite and of the immaterial, incorporeal realm, when he realized his own thought and consciousness, he simply became the fixed point at the middle of his invisible circle, rather. Well, everything in the immaterial universe is of circles, as we just discussed. Identical, though, but it is identical to that of the material universe. For instance, while the circular cells within our brains and our bodies replicate, split, and multiply consistently every single day, so too are the spherical planets, systems, and galaxies in our universe, aggregating, combining, and achieving a mitosis of their own. And the whole entirety of the universe they belong to is in fact another greater circle, a circle of timelessness, non-existence, and infinity. This greater circle is the actual living God. It exists beyond the realm of the finite, above the plane of materiality, and is the child of oneness, completion, and unity, for it exists without father nor mother. So all the systems and galaxies in the universe, they're all spherical circles, and they create and aggregate and form their own little colonies, and they just combine and multiply, and the universe around it is an even greater circle. And that circle, combining all of them together, is the living God, child of neither mother nor father, because it is a child of its own consciousness, rather. And so the ancient meaning of zero or circle is infinity, is oneness, it is unity, it is interconnectedness between all life, all realities, all existence, all together. So that's why the ancients believed that the circle was God, because that's what God is, isn't he? So it is the child born of itself, existing without father nor mother, because polarities do not exist yet, not in the circle, not in the zero quite yet. This child simply exists and is born in and of or from itself, not representing the dualities of finite existence, but the indescribable nature of the eternal one. Not one, but one, as in the circle. Consider, for instance, that the chicken came before the egg, therefore the child came before the mother and father, the creation came before creator, and the effects of existence came long before their own cause. their own cause, or its own cause. Excuse me. Simply in the realm of the ineffable, the cause and effect are simply one, neither of them existing apart from the other. Hence, the inexpressible child of source creation was actually the creator as well, becoming the child of his own thought and self-realization, just as a human child carries traits of both of his or her parents, possessing the active creative aspects of their father, while also carrying the subjective results belonging to their mother, as well as both of their DNA. The totality of all things is seen in the child, who carries the attributes of both the mother and father as one coherent whole. Therefore, the child is the one true God, who existed first before all things, carrying with him both the masculine and feminine principality or principles of the one source, which he is. As the one source of all possibility, the child is also the source of all non-possibility, for it is the one unified whole. So it cannot have all possibilities without also having non-possibilities all together in one unified whole. All possibilities would be like the equal sign of a math equation. Non-possibilities would be the circle. And you'll see shortly just why the equal sign and the zero are so similar. All possibility which is tangible represents the father aspect. It is the penetrating active will of creation, imagination, and manifestation, while all non-possibility is the mother, the receptive womb of darkness, emptiness, and uncreation. But a wise philosopher could argue that no, it is the non-possibility which best represents the father of the void, the absolute, the realm of chaos and destruction, while the all-possibility best represents the mother of life, the sustaining of that life, and the nurturing of all creation, which creates peace and security for that life or existence. But either way one might choose to look at it, the alpha and omega are one, and it is the divine child who brings all possibility and all non-possibility together, just as an equal sign in mathematics brings all equations to a total. This sign, as seen in basic math, is actually the polarized form of the zero. The zero, for instance, is the number of nothing, non-existence, and the unmanifest. It is in fact not a number at all, for it is the very absence and lack thereof. But that is what makes it so identical to the equal sign. For example, while the zero exists within an intangible reality corresponding phenomenally to the ineffable child born of its own cause, the circle, it is non-existence itself, empty space, darkness, and non-reality. But what makes it identical to the equal sign is that though it may symbolize the lack of values and figures, it also symbolizes the ultimate totality of those very values and figures, making it much like the equal sign of whom's job is, or of which its job is to bring the disagreeable, imbalanced numbers together, such as numbers needing to be multiplied, added, subtracted, divided, etc. And when done efficiently and properly, the value of those discriminatory numbers, those once discriminatory numbers, becomes absolute value, which is every bit as worthless and unusable as the zero is, because they both bring everything to a close and to a total. Therefore, the movement and the creation of things comes to an end. So the zero and the equal sign are quite the same. To be worth everything is also to be worth nothing, because at that point in time, the value of the very thing is over with. So the zero and the equal are basically one and the same. This is because the equality of mathematical numbers and equations only results in the same values which one would get if they multiplied everything by zero. The equation would always total the same way. All the numbers would be brought together, equated, and zeroed in. No pun intended. Therefore, resulting in the same principle of zero, the same simple non-number from which the Garden of Eden first sprang forth into existence, from the source. This first existence of the Garden of Eden was made by the wise calculations of the old gods. It was made first by the realization of the child of light who, existing within his own realm of heaven and hell, both together as the one, decided to split the first cell of the universe, thus manifesting as the first mitosis of the soul, upon which his masculine nature and his feminine nature could thus polarize with each other, magnetize, and calibrate, for this was the first true impact of the universe. This child first realized himself as the initial point of light within the universal mind, making him to recognize his mother, the light bearer, justice bringer, and keeper of all realities, and she was the center point, while his outer circle formed, resulting in the divine reflection of the Father, taking place deep within and serving as a mirror to the inner form, outer form, fixed point, circle, and especially the Alpha Omega, along with time and space and the positive and negative polarities, all together. It was the fixed point which initially bore the light of its own inner consciousness, which resulted in the mother aspect, while the outer waves of splendor and radiation emanated from without, resulting in the outer form of a perfect circle. And this perfectly formed circle around the central point was seen to be but the perfect manifestation of a divinely God-realized mind, or the Father, I'm guessing. And as droplets fall upon water, so does the God mind first originate in active will, direction, and energy, while sending its powers back into the streams of life, from which it amalgamates, centers itself, and redistributes energy all over again. When the child of eternity first created himself, he had to split himself into the two principles of Alpha and Omega. Therefore, he had to create the principles of both a mother and father. This can be seen not only in basic mathematics, but also in the concept of both time and space, as discussed before. For example, time would represent the active and will of the unknown Father, as well as the linear path of movement, while space would represent the subjective, foreseeable realm of the mother, as well as an open region of which there are many paths going in many different directions. Thus, the infinite realm of nonlinear time became manifest in the form of time-space, upon which the Father of active will, activity, and movement acted upon the unknown mother of distance, receptibility, and subjection, only to produce a new son, a son of whom was not born of their individual divided spirits, but of the spirit of oneness itself. This henceforth came to be the dualities of things. From the duality of light to dark, spirit to matter, or mother, life to material reality, and death to existence. Thus bore the true principles of man. There is a beginning, there is an end, but who carries it? Well, when the oneness of the O circle finally manifested itself into existence, the two created polarities became manifest on either side of it. So, one polarity here, the circle in between. With itself, the circle being the perfect balance and unity of them both. For example, the alpha polarity exists on the right side of the circle, while the omega polarity exists on its left. But right and left are not the only two directions to consider. There is also an up and a down, as well as a forwards and backwards. Furthermore, the alpha would represent the north, while the omega would represent the south, and the alpha would represent the forward motion, while the omega would represent the backward motion. To give a few examples, the right hemisphere of the brain would be the alpha masculine principle, of which is concerned with spirit, the forces of creation and light, while the left hemisphere is of the omega feminine principle, which is associated with bodies of data, knowledge, facts, divisions of thought, and the darkness of material reality. Moreover, the northern polarity represents the alpha godhead, realm of heaven, and spirit ascending from matter, while the southern polarity represents the omega physical body, mother matter, which is the two versions of the same word, and the descent of spirit down into it. So, the polarities, I was thinking also, when you see things such as tornadoes and hurricanes form, they're formed by the two polarities, right? The hot and the cold polarities. And these polarities exist on either side of the storm or of the whatever force is created. And that's what creates the circular movement of the manifestation. So the polarities exist on either side of the manifestation. So yet another manifestation of this great mystical science can be seen in the nature of electricity. Wherever electricity is present, there are always two currents of energy. Without two currents, no charge. The first current or pole of electricity is the downward active flow, which sends currents from its source into whatever receiver is present, hopefully not a human. While the second current or pole is the upward passive flow, which, as would be considered a ground, sends the energy currents back to the source from which they came. This establishes a firm connection of electricity, and this is also the relationship between the alpha and omega, the father and mother, the addition and subtraction of mathematics, time and space, and many others. In esotericism, this relationship can be seen with regard to the zodiac, which is designed like a wheel, much resembling the great circle of God, and especially the symbolic relationship between the sun and moon. For example, the sun, while in its prime during peak season, is the positive and downward flow of source energy, while the moon, during its peak season, is the negative upward flow of the same energy. This is easily referred to in the zodiac, primarily during the summer and winter solstices, respectively. The summer solstice, taking place on June 21st in the sign of Cancer, is when the sun reaches its zenith, or its highest point in the sky. And esotericists refer to this as the gateway of man, and the time when the spirit and soul of light descends down into him. This corresponds directly with the flow of electricity. The source of light establishes a connection down below with man and descends down into his flesh on earth. And many believe this is the receiving of the light bearer, the living God, the Christ, and the seed of life, light-giving power, living power. It is the point in the middle of the circle being realized, the circle itself becoming manifest in all directions, everywhere at the same time, and the realization which takes place within man when he realizes he is the fixed point itself, becoming the center of his own reality within the center of the universe. He basically becomes God-man. He becomes like that of the sun, quite remarkably. So now you can see why this time of year is so important and why this video is so relevant to the next coming weeks. It's time for a new awakening within, where it's time to receive that living power, that living spirit. He becomes like that of the sun. Just remember that. If you remember anything, remember that. You become like that of the sun. The moon, on the other hand, has its own sort of zenith during the winter solstice, and the ancients referred to this time as the gateway of the gods. This is seen as the upward trajectory of the electrical current, the time when souls leave this material form to embrace the spiritual realm. But it is also a time when man achieves a certain state of godhood as well, and is able to ascend spiritually into the regions of the Most High as a newly established king. But either way one chooses to examine this mystery, and no matter which area they choose to study, it would seem apparent that there are two specific contrasting emanations of which stem from the eternal source of oneness, and they are in fact only reflections of each other. This is why there are two pillars placed side by side within every sacred temple. So they are placed there to serve as a mirror within. And you, the circle in between, are that mirror within. In fact, you are the very temple itself, and the two pillars exist inside of you, hidden behind many veils of symbology, words, senses, and perceptions. They are the two hemispheres to your brain, your two eyes, ears, nostrils, but it is only your single eye and single tongue which can interpret them, bring them forth, rather. While they remain ever present, side by side, perfectly aligned and equal, the hidden form in between is the great circle. When one realizes the presence of the circle in between the two, the circle being the balancing equilibrium existing within the very center of things, they thus receive the figure 101, which is the figure of a higher spiritual path realized and obtained. As spoken prior, the equal sign, also the twin pillars, is very much the same as the zero, for the two of them result in the same totality of existence, While one might represent a determinable figure, while the other a non-existent one, they both in fact are paused and suspended within the same eternal now, for the adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing has all stopped, resulting in the equality of now. The forward motion of time and backward flow of space has also been paused, just like the pause sign, the equal sign, no matter where they are in the story of life. And everything is simply made as one perfectly symmetrical, perfectly balanced, and perfectly totaled figure. So time itself, everything turns into the eternal now. The present, the past, present, and future all become equalized and equal into the eternal now. Therefore, the flow and everything is put on pause. Time is conquered. The cross is overcome, and you become one with Source. Furthermore, while the Alpha Father of Time sought to invade the Omega Mother of Space, it was but the initial child in between them both who represented the infinite now, which is equal and total of the two. When the two have fully become one and have acquired the principle of now, the child, the initiate, will become aware of being in all places at all times, for this is the nature of God, the circle. In fact, at this point, there is no longer the existence of time, for the past and future no longer cross each other. They simply, this is the past and future crossing each other. They simply are spread and aligned, standing side by side as the one eternal now. The cross was only the symbol of the addition and multiplication sign, such as in mathematics, while the one eternal now is the totality and equality of them all, thus overcoming the limitations of the cross and ascending into true mastery. The alpha and omega, positive and negative currents and polarities, time and space, spirit and matter, and before and after all remain invalid in the realm of one. For divisions give no relation to one, while it is the one who truly gives all relations unto itself, which is infinite, endless space, the one beginning, the universal all, and the realm of complete interconnectedness and unity. Basically, to wrap it all up, basically it is the whole idea of recognizing oneself as the center of the one universe, which is God. For everything is made in circles, and it is through the very realization of one's own center, circular center, rather, that they thus realize their very own center in the great universal reality, and thus their own selves as a center within all the cosmos. Someone showed me a really cool picture the other day that I'd had no idea about, or I had not thought about it, rather. It's called the flower of life. The flower of life begins with one circle, and then from each point created from the circle, a new one is drawn, and then the process is repeated over and over again until you get this really intricate, detailed picture of all these circles interwoven and interconnected together, forming flowers. The image of all these flowers is a beautiful manifestation of God. This is the most sacred geometry one could ever uncover or discover, and to me, it's proof that there is this geometrical reality, all belonging to circles, all belonging to their very own centers, which reveals God, and we're all part of the flower of God and the flower of life, which is entangled in the whole entire universe and beyond. It's really mind-blowing. So hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts if you have any in the comments. Please like and subscribe, and as always, have a great day.